you look at what's happening in the world, sometimes you just try to fight for some sort of distraction. You can't just be inundated all the time with bad news, horrible stuff and everything. And, you know, I read a lot of news, I watch a lot of news, and sometimes you need a break. I was trying to take a break. I was on my phone. Terrible idea. But as I was on my phone, I saw something. Blew my mind. I like to watch combat sports. I like watching boxing, MMA, and stuff like that, because I look at all of them as chess matches. I look at all of them as these like physical chess matches with immediate consequences that are basically one skill set against another skill set, and what's going to happen, right? And so I was scrolling on my phone, and I saw this this match between what looked like two heavyweights, and one guy. You know, they were at that point where they were clearly tired and clearly like leaning on each other and everything, but not hugging yet, just like gloves to gloves. And then one guy threw I think it was a hook, and hit the other guy pretty clean, and his hair came off. This is the point where the audience is split between people who saw the video and people who didn't see the video. All right. In case you didn't see the video, I can describe it for you. Yeah, it was these two big old dudes, big guys, heavyweights, and he got punched, and his hair also, you know, like the reverb, you know, like he got punched, and then his hair reacted. And when I was watching this clip, I'm not gonna lie, I did a double take. I was like, what did I just see? You know, some people obviously have watched the video. I've watched it 6,000 times. This is crazy. Because when you watch that clip, when you watch the video, you're watching two fights. The first fight is between what looks like two heavyweights. The second fight is his hair trying to stay on his head. And believe me when I tell you it was a battle, because that first punch, he got hit, and then he took the punch, right? Absorbed it. Like, you know, you a big man used to taking big punches. That was nothing to him. He ate that one. But his hair, he got punched, but then his hair, you could see it in the video, his hair like, pow! And then he backed up a little bit. Man went ahead and punched him again. And one of the things I like about watching combat sports is you also get to see some of the preparation if they've made one of those mini docs ahead of time and everything. And then sometimes, depending on what promotion you're watching, they'll even give you some audio during the fight of the corner. What they're yelling at their fighter, whether it's instructions, whether it's encouragement, things that they shouldn't be doing. You know, you hear all of it. And I wonder if it could talk, I wonder what the toupee would have been saying. Because you know that toupee trying to coach. It was trying to, hey, move. You need to cover up. He hitting us. Because that second punch landed. Second punch landed, and you saw him once again. He didn't seem too hurt. He was over here, ooh, right? But his hair. And once again, he sort of absorbed it. I don't know how hurt he really was. It felt like you could see the toupee going, oh no! You see it go higher. It went further back. This toupee must have snapped its spine because he got hit again, and you saw the toupee like, pow! You gotta think about this thing from the other fighter's perspective for a second. Imagine you over here, you're a prize fighter, fighting another prize fighter, and y'all going at it. And then you punch him. And his hair comes off. I think if that happened to me, I would be like, I didn't know. They're already fighting. They're already trying to do each other bodily harm anyway. But that is such a weird thing to have happen. It's not even part of a threat. You see people out, like you might see people out in the streets, out in a bar, getting ready to fight, and you've seen it, especially when dudes about to fight. They're yelling all sorts of threats at each other. You know, I'm gonna bust you up, I'm gonna bust your head open, I'm gonna kill you. Never. Never ever heard two men ready to fight, mad enough to beat each other down. Never have I heard anybody go, I'm gonna knock your hair clean off. Believe that. Doesn't happen. Yeah, his hair got knocked off and it landed outside the ring. And somebody picked it up and put it in an empty seat. When you're fighting, you obviously, in any fight you engage in, you're trying to win, and if you are losing a fight, it can be devastating for you. It can be embarrassing, especially depending on who it's in front of. Is it in front of your friends? Is it in front of someone that you like, you know? Especially, I can't imagine fighting in front of a crowd and maybe not having the tools that you thought you had, maybe underestimating your opponent, and then they take advantage of a moment and maybe you get knocked out, whatever. I can't imagine the pressure of having people watch you fight. Or even if you're just out in the world and you're fighting in front of people that you might be trying to defend or you care about and you're losing. But it's even harder to imagine what it's like to have your toupee sitting ringside. I think about it from his perspective, you know. He's over here fighting his best, trying his best, going at it. And then and he gets hit. And maybe it was a hit that he didn't see coming. I wonder, did he think to himself when he got hit, whew, the room just got a little colder. Yeah, turn the air on in here. This is crazy. Oh, I think the only thing worse than getting your toupee knocked off during a televised fight is getting it knocked off by a bald man. Like the dude that... Once again, you never see two dudes out ready to fight, mad enough to beat each other down. You never see those two dudes going at it, and then before they fight, one says to the other, when I get done with you, you're gonna look like me. But you can't avoid the news forever. You can't, you know. This Epstein thing. 3.5 million more documents dropped. And that's basically like a total of like 6 million, because you gotta remember the millions that they kept finding after they said that there wasn't anything. Never. Even the history of the lottery, no one's ever been like, no, there's nothing here. Actually, there's millions, my bad. Remember, there was nothing for like a while, and then they were like, oh, we found a couple million, oh, we found 2 million. All right, look, this is embarrassing to admit. We did find 3.5 more million. I know, it's hard to tell if we're incompetent or we're lying. I know. It's very difficult. No. And it's insane to see what they talk like when they think that no one is listening. Because this is actually a whole... It is like a whole conspiracy. This is the thing that gets to me about what's happening right now. All right, is that based on... I'm not acting like I read 3.5 million documents. Just based on what I've read so far, I actually owe a lot of the conspiracy theorists I know an apology. GIB, it's very hard for me when it comes to the everything's connected people, you know? Because not everything feels connected. You know, you'll have people who are like, it's all connected. It's all connected, all right? All of it. Jean Benet, 9/11, and the tiger that went missing at the zoo. It's all connected. That's the other thing about my friends who say it's all connected. They stare, and it's like, if you would blink, I might be on board quicker. But the way that you can't just tell somebody, so even if it's a fact, even if you're telling somebody the truth, you could be telling somebody the full truth. If you stare, it does take them out of what the truth is. You gotta stop. You might tell someone a fact, a thing that they know to be true, but if you stare afterwards, you kill your own momentum. You could be looking at your friend. It's Tuesday. Do you see how I don't care what day it is for a second? No, usually it's all connected people lose steam. Because even if they've got something going on with, okay, this is the other thing. I'm trying to help. This is me trying to help, all right? Even if things are all connected, okay? Y'all gotta get the yarn more organized. If you bring me into a room and there's pictures everywhere, but the yarn doing this, see how it's hard to follow? Because admittedly, the same thing that you're doing is what like the CIA, the FBI, like any investigative body does, except they just put the thing in the middle. And then they have all the other yarn pointing from that thing. So then you're like, huh, looks like that's the guy. You know, like you saw some of this broken down in timelines on the news, and they did that. They had Epstein in the middle, and then they had lines connecting to other people, and it was simple. You see Epstein in the middle, you see all the lines from them to Epstein, and maybe you could make some distinction. Oh, from him to him to him, okay. It wasn't over here, then over here, then over here, then over here, then over here. It's too hard to follow. And so I took my pride and I tried to swallow it, and I knew that, okay, I have to apologize to some people who have been saying so many things, were connected for a very long time. And I was like, all right, time to do it. I'm gonna see him. I know he's gonna be like, well. You know? And one of the most frustrating things about what is happening in this moment right now in front of us is that the same people, not all, but a lot of the same people who have always said it's all connected and look at this and blah, 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 like all that stuff, the people who, like, when you look at everything, do seem to have been right, you go to apologize to them and then they're like, oh no, not this. No, not the guy I like. No, there's no way. No, that's no. This was literally your whole thing. This was your whole thing for like a decade, and now, because it's the guy you like, all right, whatever. That would be like if someone came to you and said, I have proof that there are aliens in the universe, in another galaxy. They live like sentient beings. They're just like us, but in their own alien way. And I'm telling you, they're out there, right? I know that they're out there. And maybe you made fun of this person, maybe you ignored this person. And then finally one day, the sky opens up. A ship comes down low into the atmosphere. And then from that ship, little pods come out of that ship and they land here on Earth. When the pods open, these creatures step out. Oh, aliens. And just when you go to apologize to your friend who's been saying for like a decade or more that there were aliens, right as you're about to fix your lips to say, I'm so sorry that I didn't believe you, he goes, oh no, the ones I was talking about were green. These don't even look like aliens to me. If I'm being honest with you, I don't think that's, no, they faking it. That's a dude in a costume, I think. That's not a spaceship, that's a drone. You never seen a drone before? No, because when you look at these files, and you look at the correspondence between Epstein and these other people, another thing that is very important to remember for all of us, because for so long, as Americans, we've sort of equated money and any form of success with intelligence. We have sort of built up a meritocracy that doesn't exist. And so we see someone, if they have $1 billion, we're like, oh, they must deserve $1 billion. If they have more money than we could ever imagine, they must have like earned it somehow. They must be so smart that they just put it together. And maybe I'll be just like them one day and I'll be able to put it together. And maybe I can work my way up to get to their level. And one of the things about reading these emails that should be apparently, it should be so clear to you when you read some of the correspondence between these people, is that these billionaires, these tech bros, these elite cannot spell. They cannot spell. They cannot spell. They probably cannot spell. They cannot spell. It is crazy. It's hard to read. It almost gives them some plausible deniability. If they were brought into court and told to read what they wrote, they might be like, I don't know what this is, to be honest with you. I don't know. They cannot. Predators that cannot read. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. I was reading some of the emails. I was like, y'all not embarrassed? It's not even in code. It's literally, they'll be like, oh, would be great to see. Just the letter C. Oh, it's insane. We over here. We're over here trying to make sure we don't misspell anything. We even using AI sometimes in our emails to proofread before we send it. We always want to seem professional. We always want to have our stuff checked so that we can look like we know what we're talking about when we talk about things. Meanwhile, some of the richest people in the world over here misspelling vacation. Never think they're better than you. Never, never, never. You read some of these emails, especially, like when you really focus on the emails, because they have released, in some instances unredacted, they've released emails that were just drafts that Jeffrey Epstein saved, right? So you get to see some of the things that he wrote out that he maybe never even sent, but you see some of his like attempts at blackmail and some of his plans for people, you know. You also see emails, a lot of emails from Elon. Elon, but okay. Remember when Elon got into it with Trump, and then he was like, Trump, the big bomb that Trump is in the Epstein files, that's why I haven't come out yet. He tried to do that mic drop. And then, how stupid do you have to be? You didn't just throw stones while you lived in a glass house. You seem to have thrown the stone through your glass floor. This dude emailed Jeffrey Epstein and was over here. Hey, I'm looking to spend some time, have a vacation. It'd be great to hang out at the island with you. Like, you want to hang out at the island? I'd love to come to the island with you. And the girls, there'll be girls there. So let's go to I want to hang out at your island with you. And we'll do whatever stuff. I mean, I want to go crazy too. So whatever stuff you do, that's what I want to do. I want to do all the stuff that you do with the girls at your island. I want to be with you at your island doing stuff and whatever stuff you have in mind, like crazy stuff. Let's lose our minds. Let's go crazy together at your island. I'm surprised that Jeffrey Epstein did not think Elon Musk was the police. The way that this man was emailing so thirsty. This is the most narc email I've ever seen in my life. This man, oh no, with you and the girls, you know, because there'll be girls there, right? It's like, I've never seen somebody send an email like they were wearing a wire. This is absolutely insane. And Epstein was one of those dudes, sure, he couldn't spell. But he knew he was the devil. And he also knew, you know, okay, I shouldn't email plainly with everybody. And so he sends an email back to Elon that this is not the exact email, but it's like the gist of it is, you know, oh yeah, it'd be great to hang out and do some math together. Just throw something out there. Wink, wink. And it's hard to do a wink, wink with a man who doesn't blink. Because then Elon's like, why would I want to do math when I could be hanging out with the girls and you at the island? I don't want to do math. I want to be with the girls at the island with you. No, it'd be so fun. Look, we'll come over to the island where the girls are. You got girls, right? Yeah. This happened a couple times between Elon and Epstein. And Epstein would try to throw in like, some sort of like red herring or something, and Elon wouldn't catch on. And then finally he got to be like, do you think I'm stupid? No, I don't want to do math. I'm clearly like into doing the thing that you said, but just stop emailing like that. There was one time he was over here, man, I would love to come to the island with the girls and you. Be fun, be together, yeah, like bros with the girls at the island. We'll do whatever bad stuff you want to do, whatever you normally do. I'm here to have fun, so whatever you do, I just want to hang out at your house with you and do whatever it is that you do. Her great stories. And Epstein emailed back, and he was like, actually, I'm gonna be out of town. Look, I personally think that Elon is like one of the biggest criminals in human history because he's got so much power and he has so much money that even on a whim, even something as simple as a mistake that he could make could affect so many lives. He affects millions of people, and he does it, and he doesn't really care about the people that he affects. And so all of these bad things that happen, you can lay them at his feet. They are his fault, The things that Doge has cut, the things that we're gonna see as a result of those cuts, that is him. That's fully him. And so the only thing to me that is worse than being like a predator criminal is being a predator criminal that other predator criminals don't want to hang out with. Like, that's wild. This man was thirsty, and they were like, ugh. Like, we're talking about Epstein. We're talking about that you have to take one of the deepest looks in human history at yourself. If actual pedophiles are like, ugh, it's just the worst. Do you realize how insane that is? An actual secret cabal, like a secret cabal of trafficking predators have a group chat without you in it. That is insane. And then Elon over here, once the files drop, because he's been big on anybody else who was in the files. I'm big on anybody else who might even have that suspicion of being in the files. He loved to throw as many people as he could under the bus or use it as his own weapon to attack people's reputation. And I'm not defending anybody. If they're in the files and he was going after them, then let them go after each other. I don't care. I'm just saying that, like, that's a wild thing to do when you know you're in the files. In the files a lot, like, you know what I mean? Like, for his part, Trump has at least been acting like somebody who's in the files and doesn't want the files to come out. Like, that's a wild thing for Elon to be like, he in there and he in there too. Because then Elon comes out spinning out when this DOJ drop happens. And he's like, if I wanted to hang out with young girls, I didn't need a creep like Epstein's help. How are you not in jail? How are you not in jail? How are you this bad? That's insane. That would be like you're sitting on the stand, and the prosecutor's coming after you, and he's like, these are your co-conspirators, right? He's the mastermind right there. You've already said to the police, you've already given your testimony that this man was the ringleader. And And then you go, I didn't need him to do it. I could do it all by myself. No. Look, okay. Listen to me. I'm gonna tell you a story. We're gonna get through it together. I have some family down south, and my family down south, one of them moved into this nice suburban neighborhood, and it was picturesque. It's one of those things that are like real slice of America type place, something out of like a sitcom or a CBS drama. And it was one of those neighborhoods where, there'd be like nice little neighborhood cookout once a month. People come over, cook their specialties. People mostly hang out with each other, do little potlucks and everything. And he had a neighbor, maybe 2-3 doors down. And this neighbor was married, but he was also having an affair. Yeah. And one weekend, when his wife was out of town, his mistress came over. Mistress comes over, and they spend a little time together. And apparently what happened was the mistress said, I think it's time for you to leave your wife and be with me. And he said, oh, funny that you say that, because the reason that I called you here is I think it's time for us to break up. And his mistress killed him. All right. I know this is a very scary story. I'm in Atlantic City. Some of you are here with your mistresses right now. But anyway. So the mistress took him out, right? And then she went outside and smoked a cigarette. This is actually what got her caught, because there was, people passing by in the neighborhood, and they were like, why is this woman in lingerie smoking a cigarette outside of Larry's house? And she even finished the cigarette. She came outside, maybe calm her nerves, smoked a little bit, put it out, and went back upstairs, and I'm not totally sure how she did it, but apparently she revived him. She resuscitated him. Yeah, gave him CPR. Woke back up, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel like if you kill somebody but you also revive them, that should break you even. That does seem, it's already so unlikely. Why fill out the paperwork? You did it, but you brought them back. Imagine that. Imagine if somebody kill you and then bring you back, and then you just pick up the argument where you left off. They over here. And you're like, and another thing. That's wild. Yeah, and then she brought him back.
How'd she kill him?
And then she did kill him again. And that feels excessive. Man, imagine being that mad. You already got him. Bring him back. Then, I don't know, maybe I'll argue some more. Maybe you're like, no, I was right. The whole reason I tell you that story is that when I first heard it, I couldn't believe that somebody would ever be that mad. You got him. They brought it back. I think you could probably call it good. I had never understood it. When I first heard that story, I was like, that seems so insane. There's so much anger to do that. Most people can't muster up to do it once. And you did it twice in the same 10 minutes. Truly, I never really understood what would make somebody do that until I was reading in the Epstein files. How did Melinda Gates not kill Bill twice? Man, okay, I don't know if you've read the part, but look, Bill Gates was cheating on Melinda Gates, apparently cheating on a decent amount, and it's one thing. Look, cheating is already very bad. Cheating is already wrong, and it breaks up lives and it breaks people's hearts and stuff. But getting cheated on by Bill Gates feels extra. You know what I mean? Okay, let's say I happen to be with Dua Lipa and she cheat on me, right? I'd have to take that one on the chin. I'd be like, all right, but you Dua Lipa. I'm surprised you're not, I was just happy for the time we spend together, Dua Lipa. You know what I mean? You know, like, because even if she was like, hey, I did this thing, I feel really bad, and I'm be like, oh, with who? And she's like, I don't know, list another like A-list celebrity. I'd be like, you know him? You know, like. But getting cheated on by Bill Gates, I'd be so mad. I'd be like, you already Bill Gates. You lucky I'm here. No, I'm cheated on by Bill Gates. Ugh. And so apparently this is like the timeline that's been strung together. Bill Gates denies all this stuff, just so you know, right? But basically, the timeline that seems to have been established is that Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates were hanging out, and Epstein got women and or girls for Bill Gates, and at one point, Bill Gates contracted an STI. And he didn't want Melinda Gates to find out. And so there's literally them going back and forth, Epstein and Bill Gates, about ways that Bill Gates can try to get antibiotics into Melinda Gates' food so she won't get it. I'm not a doctor. But if you trying to spike somebody's food with antibiotics, they got to have pretty much the same meal for a while, right? Like that. Yeah, this dude was out here. He was a fiend. He was over here hanging with Epstein. Epstein was helping him do all this stuff. Epstein, you know, I don't know if he fully introduced him to one of the mistresses, but at one point, Bill Gates was sleeping with his bridge coach. You know, bridge. In fact, if I read this right, Epstein got Bill Gates Adderall so he could play bridge better. This is why nobody should have $1 billion. You got all this money and you take an Adderall to play bridge better. You wasting it. You wasting, I can tell you wasting billions of dollars right now out here buying all the farmland and then paying for Adderall so you can play better at bridge. What a loser. You realize you out here taking performance enhancing drugs for bridge. You know bridge, you know the #1 pastime of nursing homes everywhere. How does that even help you? People sitting there, wow, he puts the cars down so fast. Ugh. Teaching Bill Gates' bridge. And that's when he makes his move on you. Yeah, because you know how romantic bridge is. You know, sometimes you got the cards in your hands, you can barely contain yourself. That's wild. And then Epstein was over here talking about how that relationship fizzled out. He said that Bill Gates left her penniless on her friend's couch. Said that the richest man in the world was a total cheapskate. And said that, you know, she needed money and Epstein gave her some. Do you know what that says about you? That you out here not only cheating on your wife, but leaving your mistress penniless, and Epstein helps her out. The whole thing is so insane, you know? Because I don't know what any of it will amount to or will mean. In other countries, there seem to be some real consequences starting. There's like real investigations starting, and then people are like stepping down or losing jobs and everything. And here, we're acting like we don't know what to do. That's insane. That doesn't make any sense. Just do whatever any of the countries does that does something about this. What should we do? I don't know. I mean, yeah, Congress needs to do their job, but I just don't think that's enough. I feel like if you are in the Epstein files, you know, some of these people aren't politicians. Some of these people aren't, you know, holding a public office that can be held to account like that, you know? No, I'm with you. I'm saying that if you see somebody, John Cena? I feel like, guys, I got this. Now we're just getting confused. Like, none of this is part of it. I was trying to lead to something, but yeah. Whoever, and yeah. No, it would be, as long as John Cena's not in the files, it would be great if people in the files just were walking around and living their lives thinking that they got away with this thing, and just when they think they're in the clear, somebody in the Epstein files, you know, and all thousands of them, you know, walking around, and maybe John Cena rolls up behind them and knocks their hair clean off.
This weekend, wow, it is for everybody. I imagine this weekend was weird. It was weird because for like half a day, we did think half a day. That's so long. Half of a day. It's a very long time to think the president. And then, you know, we found out, oh, it wasn't the case. And they posted, you know, the news reports came out. They were like, the president's been found golfing in Virginia. It's like, don't say found like that. Found. Like a lost singer. Found. It's insane. Just say he was golfing in Virginia. Found in Virginia? It makes it sound like the White House didn't know. I'm pretty sure they drove him. Found. 12 hours is too long to think somebody's dead. My buddy lives with his grandpa. And every time he thinks his grandpa's dead, he finds out in about 5 minutes. His granddaddy does that sleep you only do when you old. You know that sleep where you like, yeah, like I don't know I don't know why, but like it seems like after 70, people just sleep with a little bit too much neck. You know what I mean? Like his granddad can't just go to sleep. He always hit the like, that's a very dead way to lay. That's how Talia died at the end of Dark Knight Rises. She like the neck crank is a surefire way for somebody to put a spoon in front of your nose to see if you're still kicking. He does it a lot, apparently, you know, because his granddaddy sleeps pretty deep. There's that whole thing about sleep being the cousin of death, and I think it's his granddaddy's half brother, because not even a snore, not even a, you know what I mean? He said he always thinks his grandpa gone when he take a nap, because the way he falls asleep, which, to be fair to my friend, this is, I've never seen this in anyone else in my entire life, but he says granddad will go take a nap. He'll announce it too, like, I lay down. Then he goes to lay down, whether it's on the couch or it's in his room, and lays his head back. And he said the way his granddaddy falls asleep is he takes a deep breath. That's a great way to look dead. This man goes to take a nap, lays on the couch and goes, Now, to be fair to his granddaddy, every time he wakes up, he does finish the breath. Said his granddaddy never wake up peaceful. He always wake up. But even then, he's never wondered if his granddaddy was gone for 12 hours. 12 hours. Jeez. And we thought that because Trump doesn't look good. You know what I mean? He just finally looked like he act like. You know what I mean? Like if somebody listed everything a person did next to everything that they ingested, you'd be like, that's not a person who's well. And finally, he doesn't, you know, he just doesn't look like he's doing great. You know, I didn't even know the term. He had some venous thing. Turns out that venous thing was his ankles. His ankles, I don't know if you've seen them. World leaders have seen them. World leaders have had to sit there and not look. In case you're not familiar, look, Trump's ankles are... No, his ankles just sitting there looking, you know, caked up. Like, I mean, he got some thickums under those socks. Trump's ankles have quite a bit of booty. I can't imagine what that must be like to be an aide in the White House and walking next to the president, taking orders from the president of the United States, but all you can hear is his ankles clapping. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It is. It's like his ankles and then his hand. That hand. You know, like his hand is black. Like imagine being Donald Trump and turning black. No one's more upset than him. No, that's bad. That's tough. No, he's over here trying to live, and if you just don't have something on the schedule, people assume. It's funny too because I go back and forth with friends. I have friends that are sort of across the political spectrum. You know, I have these friends who, whether they tell me or not, I know that they voted for Trump. At least one of them, pretty sure, voted for him 3 times. You know? Every time he could, he did. And so we'll go back and forth all the time. You know, we'll mostly be arguing all the time. And we argue about a bunch of things that aren't Trump as well. Like sometimes we'll just argue about like whole social issues, whole different policies and everything. And maybe it's because I've known him longer than Trump has been president that I feel like having those arguments is, to me, worth it. You know, I don't ask anybody else to do everything that I'm doing, but I think that there is something to get to the bottom of, and it's what we are gonna do when he's gone. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that right now is easy to put everything that's happening and how we feel about each other on one person, because it's sort of the catalyst for all this stuff. But the groundwork was being laid long before he ever became president. And so whenever he's gone, you know, we're all going to have to figure out a way to relate to each other. Because it's not as if all of the problems begin and end with him. You know, he's just one of them. But I don't know. No idea. It's maybe. We don't know. It could be any day now. It could be 200 more years. Truly, like my grandma was in the nursing home before she passed, and I would go visit her and everything. My grandfather as well. At different times, they were in nursing homes, and when I go to visit them, you'd see people who had to be 3,000 years old. And it's like, I don't know. You know, you try to live a life that's full of love, and like you try to make memories and moments with family, with strangers. You want to have a full life You want to have a life that you look back on and you're proud of the impact you had on people, you know? And along the way, try maybe, I don't know, eat right when you can, but enjoy yourselves, you know? Drink sometimes, not too often. Maybe party a little bit when you're younger and it wean off of it as you get older, but do your best to have a really impactful life, even if you never become whatever it is, like rich, famous, popular. You're someone who, by being in other people's lives, their lives are richer. And same way that trees in the forest have roots that overlap, your life impacts other people's lives. You create ripple effects and create positive change in the world. And hopefully by doing all the right things, you have a good, long life. Or you could be the devil and probably live way longer, like way longer. So many of those people in that nurse home were very mean. They were so mean. I was like, man, life must run off hate fuel. How are you this old and mad you're alive too? Be sitting there. None keeps you alive longer than sitting in a rocking chair and not rocking. Imagine, you gotta really be a bad person to sit in a rocking chair, have the joy of rocking and not even want it. My friend said, you know, he went through a similar thing. He would go to the nursing home, visit his grandparents and stuff, and he said every day there was this old dude in a rocking chair, not rocking, sitting there, arms crossed in the chair. Everybody walked by. People would say hello to him. Finally, he was like, you know what? I say hello to this man when I pass him, and we never really have a conversation. He doesn't speak to me, and I don't take it personally because you never know what people are going through. You know, some people, you might think they're being rude, but maybe they have something going on. Maybe they have dementia a little bit, or maybe they're in their own head about something, trying to remember something and doing something. So he said, I'm going to make a point the next time I go there to have a conversation with him. You know what I mean? Because that's the one thing he said he never saw anybody do. And so next time he went to visit his grandpa, on the way out, he walked up to him and he was like, hi, how you doing? The man said, I'm alive. And it's like, well, I hope you're having a good day. He's like, why would it be a good day? And, well, you know, it's nice outside and everything, sun shining. You're in a rocking chair. And he was like, I'm in a rocking chair. I don't like this rocking chair. I just sit in it so nobody else cares. It's easy to put everything in the way that we are now and all narratives and all discourse on just one person. It's easy to do that, especially when that person looks like they're driving all of it, right? But the ground was laid for this person long before they came into any sort of political picture. You know what I mean? Like for a long time, people have felt like there was nobody who was looking out for them. For a long time, people felt like it would take somebody who could not be bought by Washington or Wall Street's special interest money, or couldn't be twisted in whichever direction by lobbyists, or was looking out for people because they weren't motivated by money, and they weren't motivated by the promise of getting rich, and the thing that we came to believe as a country almost. You saw this way before Trump ever entered the political picture is that if someone was at least independently wealthy, maybe they wouldn't be swayed by the money. You know what I mean? And there were those people across political spectrum that felt like there was no one looking out for them, that slowly everything that was their quality of life and everything that they earned was eroding away piece by piece, right? And that they just needed someone to step up who would stand in the way of all that and wouldn't be swayed by it. And unfortunately, that person never showed up. But like, and so I have these arguments with my friend, and there was one point where I'm going back and forth for a while because I felt like for everything that he said, I was saying something that was a reason why he shouldn't trust Trump on it, or why I didn't think it was something that was going to happen, you know? And finally he goes, well, you know, he's a businessman. And I had heard this before, and he said he's a businessman. And I was like, oh, he's a businessman. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman, though. No, like he is a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. You said he's a businessman, and he's a businessman. You told me he's a businessman. I've heard this before. He's a businessman. I'm just making sure that I understand what you're saying. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman. So even you didn't say good businessman. You said, You said, as in he's one, as in, yes, he does business. It's a businessman. Yeah. He's a businessman. He is a businessman that bankrupted a casino. You know casinos. You know those things you don't generally leave money with. He bankrupted a casino. He's a businessman. He bankrupted a casino. A casino, though. He's a businessman. It's a businessman. Bankrupted a casino. And look, I'm not a businessman. And I don't own a casino. In fact, whenever I go to a casino, I don't even gamble. I just do the show. I've done some shows at casinos. And then, I do the show, and then I go back to my room. I leave. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of running a casino. I hardly know what it's like to really, enjoy yourself at a casino, walking through and playing games and stuff. I've walked with other people as they've wanted to gamble and stuff like that. I've been awkwardly standing there, but I don't know what it takes to run a casino. And maybe this casino, look, maybe I'm throwing this out there as an olive branch. One of many I'll extend. Maybe this casino, this one, maybe had those slot machines that really give you credit for how hard you pull them. You know what I mean? You pull that slot machine as hard as you can, and the slot machine is like, okay, Daddy. Nah, I gotta get you a little something for that. No, I don't know, but he knows because he's a businessman. He's a businessman. Maybe I'm throwing it out there that at this casino they had, working for the casino, blackjack dealers that were as bad at blackjack as me. Maybe the dealer, you'd be at his table, and he was like. You said hit? You sure? Okay. And you win again. All right, wonderful. I don't know. He probably knows because he's a businessman. Maybe this was one of the only casinos in all of America, maybe in all of the world, the only casino with clocks. Who knows? Maybe just over the poker table was a clock, and people were like, 9 already? I should go home. I've been here for quite a while. I don't know, but I'm sure he knows because he's a businessman. He's a businessman. Bankrupted a casino. A businessman. And look, it's a casino. I can't think of a better... People come and drop off their money and leave. I can't think... I am not a businessman, but I can't think of a better business to make money. You can't even have casinos everywhere. But, you know, this is my thing. A part of me does understand how someone could think all we need to do is get a businessman in there to fix everything, because I think that America runs so much like a business, even in the parts that it shouldn't, that obviously we're going to think everything translates to business. You know, like I didn't, this was where I was naive, I'll tell you right now. I thought that even if there was no national pride or community, or even if we couldn't find some sort of like camaraderie as Americans, we at least at our very core loved money enough. I thought we loved money more than anyone loved him. I thought as soon as somebody messed with the money, we would all come to our senses and be like, yo, not the money. That's the only thing holding this together. But then you see there are people whose lives have already been ruined because of his policies. You could lay all the blame at his feet, and they're like, I'll figure something else out. You'll figure something else out. That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. Especially when, like, what? 12 months ago, you were screaming about eggs. And now your business is in shambles. And you're like, who can say? That felt insane. But also, I think that if you look at America as a business, it would make sense that you would want a businessman in there. But the thing is, you can't run the country the way you run a business. You know, a company, if they are in dire straits, could lay off half their work staff and then try to keep things going, use that to stay afloat. A company can buy back its own stocks in an effort to enrich itself as a company, make those stocks worth more. A company has a fiduciary responsibility to its shareholders. A company technically does more for its shareholders than the government does for its people. And so I could see how people would be like, oh, we'd at least like to get that. That'd be nice, some dividends or equity, something. We'd at least like to feel solvent. You know? But it just doesn't work that way. And I don't think it should. I think that a business now is very different than a business before. Like there's a thing that happened, and maybe it's only like my frame of reference because of age and everything, but I think that something happened in 2008 that we haven't recovered from still, which is that, like, for the first time ever, companies that truly screwed up beyond measure, like actually beyond measure, like they should have crashed everything. This is the type of stuff that you read in the textbook and then they, hung everybody. Like that's, we don't realize it, but that's the level of like nasty that it got in 2008. If you had, knocked off a couple 100 years and put it in France, there would have been a guillotine. You know what I mean? And instead, there was a bailout, but instead of a bailout of the people, it was a bailout of the companies, because we believe in business so much. We believe that everything works like a business, to the point where even the politicians, naively, maybe some of them sincerely, were sure that if we keep the business afloat, it'll keep the people afloat, because then people won't lose their jobs, and then people will still be able to get these services, and people will still buy these products, right? And what ended up happening is that, so many people were foreclosed on. So many people lost their jobs anyway. People's like 401ks and retirements were destroyed. And then the people that they gave the bailout to sort of, trickle down the economics, something got stopped up right at the top. And so people who had wrecked the economy beyond measure got a bonus. They got a bonus for wrecking usually when you break something. And ever since then, it feels like business is about not being left holding the bag. That's what real business seems to be now, is that you do everything you can to extract as much value as possible, and then you dip before everything comes crashing down, whether you dip because you sell the company, or you dip because, you decide to shutter it after you've like fired everyone and ruined it as a service and everything. Basically private equity, right? So I believe he's a businessman. I do, because I'm sure, look, if we're talking business, to his credit, I'm sure that he was not worse off for bankrupting that casino. I'm sure it was the people that worked at the casino. I'm sure he stiffed some of the contractors who helped build the casino, but I'm sure that he found a way to leverage that debt, because he loves debt. He found a way to leverage that debt into his next venture, and then he started selling steaks or whatever. I don't know. Like, it was just spin a lot of products. You know what else it is too, is that you can't focus too much on this one person. It makes him more important than he really is. I understand that he's president. I understand he's one of the richest people in the world. But as far as importance, it's about what lasts, This dude, no wonder we thought he was gone. He went on Fox News. No wonder we thought he was gone. Trump went on Fox News. Everybody forget this. Trump went on Fox News and just started randomly. No one asked him. Randomly talking about how he was trying to get into heaven. And it's like, then One thing my buddy's granddaddy never does is talk about the afterlife. Gets up, watches his shows, takes his naps, gets up and eats, and repeats. If he was pontificating on heaven, I think people would just start assuming that every nap really was the last nap. And it's because, a man's man. Guys, he's turning black. But I don't, look, I truly talk about Trump because he's in the news, but I don't really care about Trump. I care about people? What's going on with people? All of this is going to outlast this one person, you know? And even in California, you see in California where there was one case, it seems contained and already treated and everything, but it is happening. One case of plague. You know plague. You know plague. Plague. Some would ask which plague. Apparently, You know plague from the producers of the Middle Ages. Plague. You know plague. Don't act like you don't know plague. You know plague. It's plague. The reason Europe's not bigger. Plague. You know plague. And no matter how much you may hate Trump, you gotta admit, this is some pretty bad luck. He 2 for 2 on presidential terms and plagues. That's crazy. That was wild. Yeah, first one a fluke. The second one, shit. How did a plague skip Biden's era? Like that's. Plague. Because that's the fear, is that like, yes, they found one case, they treated it, you know, they've even traced it back to a particular source, because it's really a climate change issue, because basically the fleas that carry plague are thriving right now in the warmer climate, and so then they're hopping on more rats, and then the rats might come in contact with people, right? And so there's always the fear, the possibility that it isn't just that one case and it isn't just contained to California. There's a real fear and a possibility that plague could have spread to the president's hand. It's possible. Because what we did and how do I put this? What we've done in the U.S. as far as presidents is it's not exactly like we're picking young ones. You know what I mean? Whatever you do, whatever that thing is, whether it's law, is military, or is business, we seem to want you to have a wealth of experience in that field, because there's going to be 3 branches of the government, and you may not be familiar with all of them. Even if you're a career politician, you may not know how to like wade perfectly through all of them. But, you know, if you have a lot of experience in one thing, that could win you the trust of the people. And we haven't had a young president in a long time. I mean, like, Kennedy was one, like, young ones, like a young guy being president. And we haven't really done that again. Like, you know, what we've done is we've let confidence and swag make up for youth. If you are the president and you present yourself in a way that makes us feel good, we will turn that back over to you in the sort of social capital that youth usually carries, right? Because we want you to have experience, but at a certain point, we have to be realistic, right? Like, Bill Clinton wasn't young, but he had a saxophone. We had a saxophone, so we defended him. We were like, that shows lung capacity. Have you heard him play, though? And then you had George W. Bush. Look, George Bush wasn't young, but he... I don't know, he just had like a childlike wonder to his... You could always tell when he was addressing the nation and he had also just learned a new word. Bush would be up there like, terror. Did I do it good? And then you had Barack Obama. And Barack Obama was younger than some of the people who have been president, you know, before and since, but he wasn't a baby. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't incredibly young, but he had that exact thing I'm talking about. He had an energy that was like a mobilization behind him, and he had like some measure of charisma that made up for any youth he might have been lacking. You know, I remember when Barack Obama sang that Al Green. That was incredibly uncomfortable. No, because when it happened, I was at a get together with a bunch of aunties going, "Oh, Barack." I'm like, no. No, I'm trying to have my dinner right now. What you doing? Can't eat meatloaf in these conditions. And then you went from Obama to Trump, and Trump had that energy. He had people behind him, and he came off youthful because he was like a schoolyard bully. Anytime somebody said something, any interview that went awry, he was ready, nickname, anything. He was just coming at you all the time. It's like he fed off of it. It was his favorite thing to fight with the media and get people riled up. That feels like youthful energy. That feels like it's going to be here forever, you know? And then we went from Trump to Biden, who, to be fair, told us he was going to be old. I've talked about this before. We were coming at Biden. We asked Biden, and Biden was like, "Are you sure?" I got a Werther's in my mouth right now. I'll do it if you want me to do it, but my car does smell like potpourri, so. I'll do it. If y'all want me to do it, I'll do it. For real. If y'all like, no. Like if I'm the only one that can stop them, if I need to do it, I'll do it. But just know, when I shake world leaders' hands at the G7, G20, whatever, my hand will pop a lot. Whole handshake. It's gonna sound like Orville Redenbacher. But if y'all insist. And then we got Trump again after Biden, and this feels very different. You go back and watch a rally of Trump from 2016, 2017, and then you watch a press conference now, very different. It's very, very different. I mean, it seems like he's dying. Like it's because look, I'm not. It's not lost on me that to be an American, to live in the U.S., you have to become, or at least have an understanding of what you need to do to be a semi-good capitalist, right? And there are people that ask the question, how can you fight for a more equitable world while you're living in a system that is corrupt? And I look at it the way I look at when I travel and I meet people who live in the country, but they don't speak the language, right? Like your native language is compassion and charity. You weren't made specifically to speak the language of margin calls and derivatives, and dividends and everything. That's a language you can learn to get by because you live here, but it's not a language you were born with. When your parents are raising you, or when you have fond memories of being a kid, they all come from things much deeper than money. And then as you get older, you clearly need money to get by. That's no crime. Like, you have to function as a society. So you learn how to move with money as best as possible, but you can get distracted. It can take you to a place that makes it hard to remember your humanity. You know what I mean? Like some people look at anyone who has succeeded in business as someone who must have earned it, but that's not how all business works. You know what I mean? Like if I own a house and I set it on fire and I run out of the house, am I a genius or did I just have an insurance policy? Maybe both, but maybe I'm a crook. You know? Like only solvency that you have to contend with is your soul. You know what I mean? The solvency is defined by a company's ability to pay its long-term debts, right? If a company's not solvent, you have no trust in that company, and you probably shouldn't invest in that company. And as long as we're keeping it to financial terms, a soul works in a similar way. Depending on your belief system, depends on if your solvency, your long-term debt is to God or family, your community or a cause. But like, you can tell the difference between a religion and a cult by how they measure those solvencies. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that every major religion doesn't have its blemishes. It has people, so it's going to have plenty of mistakes in its history. But, a religion that only speaks to what is deeper about you and what is in you and what happens outside of all of this is probably worth looking into, worth reading about. And anything that brings it all the way down to the material good is probably a cult. You know what I mean? Just because a cult usually wants your money. They start off pretty good. A cult usually starts off with like a great party or something. And then like, I don't know, in about 3 weeks, they're like, hey, how much do you make? Dividends work the same way. Dividends get paid out. Companies will pay dividends to their investors, and those dividends go to shareholders. They go to investors. And if you have ever been the beneficiary of someone's kindness or goodwill, then you have dividends to pay throughout your life, And I don't know if that can be understood if you only understand business. Country isn't a business. It just isn't. You know what I mean? Like, but who knows? He's a businessman. Like maybe he's Trump is a businessman the way JFK Jr. was a pilot. You know what I mean? Oh, all right. No, you should groan. You're on the plane.